Ewan McGregor, welcome to the Daily Social Distancing Show.
Nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
You have been in some of our favorite movies. I mean, just like some of the most iconic movies. But over the past few years, you've also taken time out of your life to just live, I guess, every Instagrammer's dream, and that is get on a motorbike and just ride around a random country. When did you decide that, you know what, I'm just going to take my vacations with a friend and turn them into the show?
It was out of laziness, to be honest. My friend Charlie and I have known each other since we made this film together called Serpent's Kiss 24 years ago. And we both had just had our first children, so we were both new dads, and we both had this love of motorcycles. And we became very fast friends. And then I read this book that was written by somebody who's now a friend of mine called Ted Simon, who was a journalist for, I think, the Sunday Times, the Radio Times, in London in the 1970s. And he decided to do this round the world trip to write a column about traveling around the world. And he wasn't a biker, but he decided the best way to do it would be on the back of a bike. So he got Triumph to supply him a bike, and off he went. And it took him 3 or 4 years. And he wrote this beautiful book called Jupiter's Travels, which I read and was just moved by and started daydreaming about traveling. So we decided to do the first trip in 2004, London to New York. And the visa applications are so complicated, like getting in and out of Russia 2 or 3 times, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and we just were too lazy to do it ourselves. So we thought, well, if we shoot this, then we can have a little production office with people that will do that stuff for us. And that's why sort of how it was born.
You rode 13,000 miles through, I think it was 13 countries. It feels like, the coronavirus has shut that all down. Were you ready to take a break, or could you just have kept on riding if the whole world didn't have to come to a stop?
I could have kept going. I mean, towards the end, I just realized that this could be it for me. You know, if I didn't have my children and Mary to come back to, I could just keep going, you know. I love the sort of nomadicism, if that's a word of it. It's very human. It's a really nice, you wake up in the morning, you pack the bike, and you just keep going in the vague direction you're headed in. Mm-hmm. And then at night you find somewhere to sleep, or you put a tent up or whatever, and then you've got it all to do again the next day. There's something quite lovely about it, not knowing what's around the next corner, not knowing who you're going to meet, not knowing when the next thing that goes wrong is going to go wrong, and when the next person, when it does go wrong, is going to come and help you, you know, because it's just always the case.
You were riding electric motorbikes for the first time, and it came with a different set of challenges. Like I didn't think about bikes not charging because they're too cold sometimes. I didn't think about like randomly running out of power because there are no charging stations. 2 questions. Why did you choose the bikes? Like, why did you choose to go electric? And secondly, what did you notice about riding electric through so many different countries?
In our long way round trip in 2004 and a long way down trip in 2007, we had absolute freedom to stop wherever. If we were riding along and it was 4 PM, we could just ride off the road and put our tents up, and then the next morning carry on. Well, we didn't have that huge freedom this time because we had to have the bike plugged in somewhere. So that was one slight impact on the experience, in that we had to be in a hostel or a hotel or somewhere where we could plug it in. But that led, the upshot of that was it led us to meet people we would never normally have met. Like we were stuck between a town we'd stopped in the afternoon. This was in Chile, I think, and it's somewhere. And then the town we were heading to, and there was nothing in between, so we had to get to this town. But this town was on the other side of this big mountain, and so you start going uphill. And when you're going uphill, you're using more power. Then there was a headwind, and when you've got a headwind, you're less aerodynamic. You're not very aerodynamic on a bike anyway. But when you've got a headwind, you're using more power. And at that point, I said, I'm not going to make it. So we're just next to this little settlement that couldn't call it a farm. It was just a little house with a sort of a farm-esque type place. And we just rocked up there, and we knocked on this sort of gate, and this little kids ran out, and they opened the gate. We rode in. We just said to this lady who came out of her house, look, we're in our broken Spanish. We're trying to ride these electric bikes from Ushuaia to Los Angeles, and can we plug them in? Would you mind? And this is how much it costs to fill the bike up, and we'll give you that money. And she was quite happy to let us do it. So we plugged in, and within 2 minutes, the whole place was plunged into darkness. All our fuses had gone, and instead of her going, off, get out of here, you're ruining my electricity. She was in the fuse box trying to help us to charge our bike.
Wow.
And in the end, we couldn't do it there. We just had to thank her, and we had to backtrack and go back to the town. But that happened to us all the time. You know, that's one of the beautiful things about doing these trips is that that human kindness that you experience daily is so uplifting and overwhelming. It's just lovely.
You were stuck, like when you were in Ukraine, you were stuck at the border for like 12 hours. You know, the foreign ministry had to help you out. When you were in Mongolia, there were sheep herders that had to help you fix one of the bikes. You know, when you were in Kazakhstan, you had somebody pull a handgun on you. At that point, when someone's pulling a handgun on you, do you not think to yourself in that moment, all right, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be riding through all of these random countries?
No, I had two words in my mind when that guy pulled the handgun, and it was so funny looking back because it was, oh no. That was it. It wasn't any more complicated than that. I just thought, oh no. That was it. And then it happened away and drove off. So funny. I mean, it was so funny how we both tell that story, Charlie and I, because we're in this long stretch in Kazakhstan, and there's camels for the first time. And we've ridden from London on our motorbikes to somewhere where there are camels at the side of the road. So we thought we should mark this moment. We got the bikes off the side of the road, and this car arrives from miles away. We can see it coming, and it's full of guys, Kazakhstan guys. They're all got lots of gold teeth, I remember, and they're sort of smiling at us out the window, and they look down at the video camera on the floor and then look back at us, and the guy in the back pulls out a handgun. Now, in my story, he points it directly at me. And in Charlie's story, he points it directly at Charlie. So, you know, to me, it's definitely pointing at me, I think. And those were those thoughts. Oh no! And then, luckily, a truck was coming from the other direction, and Claudia looked over her shoulder, saw the truck, looked back at the guys. The guys saw the truck, and they put the gun away and they drove off. So we were fine.
Man, I'll tell you this, it's an amazing show because you take us to so many different countries. We get to see how so many different people live. I mean, from meeting child soldiers in one part of the world to speaking to old ladies in another. It's a beautiful show. And honestly, my favorite part of it was just, it made me feel like I was leaving the house and traveling the world. So thank you for another amazing series, and good luck to you when you get back out there on a bike.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Great chatting to you, Ewan.
Cheers, man. Take care. Nice to talk to you.